Okay, so yeah, we are live now. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to iDreamCareer's YouTube channel. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Anushi Rastogi, and I will be your host for today's session. As you already aware, today we will be talking about career as a lawyer, and we have so many students who get confused, like how about how to become a lawyer and maybe what exactly a lawyer does. I know many of you have seen some web series or movies. तो ये सोचते ही है कि अरे लॉयर तो बनना है, मतलब लाइक लॉयर को देख के ऐसा लगता है कि दिस इज समथिंग अ ग्रेट प्रोफेशन इज, एंड ये तो करना ही है, ये तो बनना ही है. So for those students, this session is definitely going to help them on understanding how to become a lawyer and what is the career path as a lawyer. And joining us as an expert speaker for this session is Mr. Sidharth, who has 10 years of experience in the field of law. He holds expertise in the domain of mergers and acquisitions, private equity, and SaaS. In today's weekly career class, we will get all the insights of his journey from a law school to an M&A lawyer, and also would be talking about what a career as a lawyer looks like, or what does a day in his life look like. So welcome and thank you, Siddharth, for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Okay. So before we start, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to use that live chat feature. You can like simply click on the link available on the live chat option, and you can ask your questions over the live chat, and we will be addressing all the questions at the end of the session. So yeah, we are good to go. So Siddharth, I just wanted to understand first of all how this idea came up to your mind, or to be, like what excites you to, and how you decided that you want to be a lawyer.
Yeah. So it's a long story, and
Yeah, yeah.
it starts really with me. I had actually taken PCMB in my 11th standard, which I moved to PCM Eco. So it really was the access was or science stream, and I taken it because my school allowed me to, based on my grades, etc. But as I went through my 11th standard, I slowly came to the realization that I might not really want to do engineering. I might not want to be a doctor. I'd even gone to AIMS and I'd seen how a live heart surgery, is undertaken. I was privileged to get access to open heart surgery. But I came to realize that that was not what I wanted to do. And while I was figuring out what I wanted to do, my school also insisted that we did this, what you can say, like a personality test plus a career test, indication test. So I took that. This was Sanskriti school in Delhi. I took that test. And I remember the top three answers that came. One was judge, the other was advocate, and third was journalist. So when I looked at those three answers, I said, is that really maybe what, I had only given answers to the questions in that aptitude test. So I said, it looks like I'm, suited for this profession. Let me think about it. So that was the first time really when I thought about uh, law as a career. Now, thereafter, uh, I did sit for, there was there were some of these presentations that were made by career launcher. So I attended them to understand more about law. Sachin Malhan at that time, who graduated, I think, 4 5 years before me. He spoke about the profession, so that also added some input and insight and value. I didn't have any other background otherwise in law, in terms of my family members, right? But certainly, this inspired me to explore it. Then I also, a little late in the day, took up these career entrance test preparation that I took up. That also gave me some grounding 2 3 months before the uh, examinations. So I sat for, and that time there was no CLAT. So for each law school, you had to give a separate entrance test. So the ones that were available, I sat for 4 or 5 of them. I also, being from Pune, I also applied to ILS Law College, which was in Pune. But uh, and then I eventually landed up with two choices. It was either Gandhinagar, GNLU, or it was ILS Pune. And given that I was from Pune, my family was from there. I never lived in Pune, not for more than 8 months, but I lived in Bombay and Delhi. But there was a sense that that was a safer environment. That was a well-known institution, pedigreed institution. At the time, GNLU was new, although everybody was talking about it. And finally, it was, after discussion with my family, we felt it would be better for me to experience my own hometown. And, the environment that ILS also gave you in terms of the independence it gave you. There was an academic bent over there, freedom for students to pursue their interests in the city, um, good teachers, good student crowd. So it seemed like a fair choice. So that's how I got into law initially.
Okay. Uh, so when you say that you pursued your law degree from ILS Law College Pune, so like how did you choose that this is the best college and this is the right college for you? What made you like choose that particular college?
So like I said, I had two options. I had about 2 to 3 months to prepare. I sat for these various entrance tests, for not too many of them, four of them, and I got through one. I got through two, so I had two choices. I had either that I go to Pune or I go to Gandhinagar, GNLU. Like I said, because of various permutations and combinations, also personal to me, I decided that Pune would be a good place to study. So it wasn't. It was partly based on the choices I had, of course, and then my personal reasons for being in Pune.
Okay,
So
got it. Okay, so do you have any advice for high school students, those students who are in class 12, who want to pursue this law degree and they are confused that they should start after 12th or maybe after graduation? Because we have two degree options. First is after 12th, which is a 5 year integrated course,
yeah,
and there's a 3 year degree course also available, which one can pursue after graduation,
correct.
like LLB, which is also like a bachelor's degree. So, what would you suggest that they should consider a 5 year degree course or like 3 years degree course?
Yeah, if you're a high school student, right,
Yeah.
you might as well, and you are contemplating law as a career. You might as well go in for that 5 year course because it is an integrated course. You'll be taught everything from history, sociology, English, economics, political science, to contract law, intellectual property law, constitutional law, depending on whether you're in a university system or in a trimester system. They'll mix and match differently. But the 5 year integrated course is, in my experience, going to give you better benefits and results than the 3 year course. Which is not to say that a person who has done 3 years in some other field and wants to move into law should feel that he or she will never have the option of getting into law, because there is no such thing. You can get into law at any point in time in life. And
Yeah.
in fact, I remember when I was at PepsiCo as a trainee, I remember I'd met this lawyer from New York, and he had come to India to do the Tata PepsiCo JV deal. So I was also involved in it. Of course, I was a trainee lawyer, pretty junior. But while chatting with him, he told me that he started his legal career only at the age of 30. And he said it was not, uncommon for lawyers to get into the profession pretty late in life. So 30 is when he started, and then he was 40 when I met him. So it's never too late, is what I'm trying to say, for those
Yeah.
who want to do a 3 year course. But the 5 year course will give you in India uh, benefits that, perhaps in terms of the networking you do, the exposure you get early, it just prepare you better to get into a job or into the courtroom, whatever it is that you may want to do in law finally.
All right. So yeah, I got a clear picture. Yeah, and I agree. There's no age limit to pursue a particular course. It could be any age. If you are feeling at the age of 30 that you want to be a lawyer, you can probably start at the age of 30. And if that is it is of your interest, then definitely you should. Okay, so before I talk about the career opportunities in a lawyer profession or about your experience, personal experience as a lawyer, I would first like to know a very like a hypothetical myth. You can say that is it true that lawyers are only limited to the courtrooms? They have to be at the courts only. So is it true? Actually true, or maybe it's like just a myth?
No, it's a myth. I mean, it's not true because look at me. I'm in an office half of the time, either at a client site doing a negotiation, which is likely to be a company, or in office and working on my laptop. I don't have to go to court. Many lawyers don't,
Okay.
because the work involved as a corporate transactional lawyer is pre-dispute, and the whole goal is to ensure that the parties do not dispute, that the way the documentation is drafted secures each party's rights and clarifies their roles and obligations. So when you as a corporate lawyer work with clients well in advance at the stage of them getting together in business, you think through all the various possibilities, problems that they may face. You try and find solutions to those and put them into the document so that the exit, so to speak, if tomorrow two parties were to break away, that exit is clearly defined, and the chances of dispute are lower. Which is not to say that disputes don't happen; they do happen, and even if they do happen, nowadays almost all contracts refer to arbitration, and arbitration again is a private forum, so you're not going to court. We recently I was in a arbitration where
Actually, Siddharth, I think your voice has lagged. We can't hear you. I think there's some issue.
Yeah, sorry. They say
Yeah,
there
that
was some
is
issue with the internet.
that's
So,
fine.
like I was saying, there was this lady who was an arbitrator who was in Singapore, and she was working on a matter between two Indian parties. So, uh, there's no going to court. That matter will get resolved, out of court. Yeah.
Okay. So I have another question. Like, what are some of the job opportunities for a student who wish to like pursue a career in law available?
I mean, you think of it like this: there are so many companies across India, large companies, mid-sized companies. There are so many startups.
Okay.
Uh, Now, let's say you are at an MNC, like a PepsiCo, right? At least what PepsiCo was a few years earlier, when it was a full-fledged organization running, manufacturing facilities in India. Lawyers had their work cut out for them in the sense that there would be land diligences they had to do, so real estate. There were customer complaints, so consumer law. There were sales tax at that time, sales tax issues, uh, income tax issues. So you had an entire tax team. Then you had the startup PepsiCo JV when it happened, right? So you needed transactional experience. You had HR issues, so it could be employment law related, labor law related issues. So you had external consultants, you had internal lawyers who were well placed to advise the company on, say employee provident fund matters, to deal with the inspectors who if they ever issued a notice or if they wanted a clarification. Um, to structure a corporate commercial transaction, to give advice to advertising and to your advertising team, marketing team, branding team, how the logo should be placed, and what are the packaging regulations that apply to PepsiCo's products, like say your cola products, your food products, Frito-Lay's. Agriculture. So they worked with farmers, did contract farming, potato chip manufacturing,
Yeah.
uh, running the plants. There would be issues at the plant side when at a local level they had to hire a lawyer once to get someone out of jail. You had a need for all kinds of lawyers in
Okay.
just one organization, as you can see. And then there are so many hundreds of organizations in India. So the nature of the work is varied, and the need for expertise is across the board. So it could be trade law, it could be corporate law, it could be tax law, it could be criminal law, it could be family law, wills, trusts,
Yeah.
so many types of laws that you can specialize in, and these are all based on actual issues that people are facing, right? Or um, structuring that they have to do in their personal life or business. Like I said, startups, they need help with fundraising. Larger companies need help with acquisitions, so then you get into venture capital funding,
Yeah.
and you get into investment deal documentation, your shareholder agreements, your share subscription agreements, share purchase agreements. Again, it's based on business need as a corporate lawyer.
Okay. Okay, so Siddharth, like you just told us that you have worked with like PepsiCo as an associate attorney. So, would like to know how did you got the opportunity to work as as an associate as attorney at PepsiCo, and how was the experience working with PepsiCo?
See, I mean, I there were family friends who I knew in PepsiCo, colleagues of my father. So getting an internship initially was not very difficult. So I got my internship when I was in my second year, based on people I knew, and I ensured that in my internship I worked hard. Uh, in fact, we had a lot of fun. We had this amazing lawyer from Australia, who, I mean, an Indian, but who had been based in Australia, who was then leading PepsiCo India's legal team, Mr. Parvez Bilimoria. And so under his guidance, and then later there was also Mr. Shankar, VR Shankar. So there were these amazing lawyers at Pepsi. During my internship, I saw I got to work closely with them, and I got to add value, and I did my best. And I think because I tried my level best and I kept in touch, I was able to later get into a traineeship for about 8 months at Pepsi. And that the aim, of course, was that the traineeship would convert into a job at some point.
Yeah.
And it was during that traineeship period that I really got exposed to various kinds of issues and laws. Uh, and I was working with brilliant people. I mean, I have to say, whether it was Mr. Shankar, who was then leading the team, just the leadership qualities that they showed, the work ethic, they were very keen to ensure that the legal team was not seen as a cost center, that it was actually contributing to business, that you could see business folks would come in seeking solutions with a very positive approach, that yes, this legal team is going to find me a solution. And we didn't want to become a hindrance to anyone. Always wanted to become an enabler. So that attitude and approach of being an enabler to business, I would say I learned from PepsiCo, and I learned from Mr. Shankar, who's now at Hindalco, and from Namit, in fact, Chawla, who was just this, young, brilliant lawyer, uh, senior to me, very hardworking, very, very hardworking. So I saw what law practice involved early on, even if it was in a company and not at a law firm, not in court, but it was a great experience. I think I've given you a flavor of the kinds of issues that come up at a company, And those were the
Yeah.
issues that I faced at Pepsi. So I had to travel to Batinda. I had to travel, even to the Gurgaon Employee Provident Fund office at some point. I had to work with the marketing team, with the Frito-Lay team, advise on food, pesticide related issues, do research. There was that entire pesticide issue for Pepsi and Coke at that time. So a lot of research and value add in that sense. Great exposure, great exposure.
That's great. That's great. You got a exposure in like second year of your education journey, because like as you mentioned that you got this opportunity through your networks. So will that be true to say that networking is definitely plays an important role if you want to pursue a career, or if you want to get a job into this legal profession? So it won't be wrong to say that yes, without networking, I think it could be tough for a student to get into a job, I believe. Is it
I
true?
mean, it would depend. I think, if you're from a law school, you go through the placement process, uh, chances of you getting a job out of law school are higher.
Okay, okay.
Okay, if you have an alumni network, you can tap into, and that is networking again. But within your ecosystem of lawyers, then certainly you find people benefiting from that network as well. Those who already have their parents are in law practitioners, they have those networks that they tap into. But I think the college and or law school also plays an important role. The institution also plays an important role. And so again, like I said, it depends on the institution, and it depends on the alumni network, and it depends a lot on as to whether you get placed in, say, a top tier firm, right? But at the same time, nothing stops you from attempting and trying and finding your way through different means into these top tier firms. And if you see, in India now, there are so many law firms, not just these big
Yeah.
firms, right? There are smaller firms. Everybody is providing advice. And very often, the nature of work, it can be similar. Even if you're at a small firm and at a larger firm, maybe the volume of work may be different. Maybe the amounts of the deal size amounts may be different. But if you're at a firm which is providing you the right training, you're basically getting similar exposure. So there is a need for lawyers and associates at every level in the industry. I don't think um, that is an issue, but it's just that the number of lawyers being produced every year is increasing exponentially. So I'm not sure about the demand and supply issues. But like I said, you it definitely helps if you network, and if you're able to get an opportunity to interview, get an opportunity to get trained by someone who understands the nitty-gritties of that practice vertical. That's very important in law, right? So
I mean, I completely agree with you. Like, it's with every domain, I believe, like, be it law or be it any other profession, it's very important to get insights from a senior person who is in the system for last like for couple of years or maybe like more than that. It's very important to get an exposure because books the knowledge मिल सकती है, but practical exposure is also very important if you are like if you want to get into a job, if you want to get a build a career.
absolutely.
It's very important. I personally believe, I too also believe that you can't be a bookish knowledge can't help you. I completely
Yeah.
understand.
No,
Yeah.
and just to add to that,
Yeah.
see, what is the motivation that you have? Okay, what is driving you? So if it
Yes.
is academics and just academics that are driving you, you want to explore that further, well and good. If it is the integration of academics with practical implementation in terms of a job, what it's not just about getting into the profession, it's also about what will keep you in the profession. So what is it that motivates you to do that practice vertical, right? Why do people take criminal law? Why do people take M&A? Or how do they get into it? I think You only through experiencing it a little bit through your internships, maybe through traineeships, will you also get a sense of what it's really about. Yes, you do need to explore opportunities and do internships early on in your career at law school or law college. I think that is important. I did a couple. I could have done more. I know people who only did internships, lots of them, and I know people who also, while studying, were working full time or at least part time with lawyers.
Yeah.
Uh, the sooner you do it, the more exposure experience you get, then your direction, you are able to focus that much earlier on what you want.
So I have a question about this internship. So I have seen some of the movies and web series where lawyers join as an intern, and probably it could be a myth also, and it could be a movie thing also, that they only and only get to work की file ला के दे दो, ये file वहाँ रख दो. These sort of things they are allowed to do. Apart from that, they are not able to do anything. So is it true about this thing? Like they can't work on any other. They don't get chance to work on the files. Don't get chance to read the files, whatever the client files they are getting. So is it true actually, or maybe it's just a movie thing?
See, I mean, if you have an intern or you have a trainee, the whole point is that you need that person's support as well, right? You need those interns to help you with some research, with some drafting. Your job also is to give them work so that they also learn and develop. Now, you may not be able to put them in front of a client. With some interns or some trainees, you may be able to do that as well. But generally, you may not land up giving them that exposure each and every time, right? But you are going to give them work. Otherwise, why else are they there? So I really don't need somebody carrying files for me. And I'm speaking as a corporate lawyer. Maybe the litigation folks do actually have to, carry a lot of baggage with them wherever they go, files basically. And maybe they may put the interns to tasks, give them tasks of that nature, which also should be acceptable to an extent because you're young, you're learning about the profession, unless you get to do, oh, let's say as a corporate lawyer, I ask somebody to proofread a draft, right? Or I ask them to do a spell check. When I ask them to do that, it's not some menial job that they're doing. uh, they are getting the opportunity to look at documents that
Yeah.
otherwise they would not have. When they are doing a spell check, they're supposed to also read, and they have the opportunity to read what that document is saying. They have the opportunity to come up and chat with me and ask me what it is about. And then, so it seems like a menial task, but actually, for someone who's interested, they're reading, they're discussing, they're growing as interns. Likewise, drafting could be drafting a notice or a response to a notice, uh, getting facts together, uh, asking the right questions so I can ask the client. That is part of the training, right? And you'd rather do it as an intern than do it as a young associate. I mean, you'll have to do it as an associate also. The sooner you start, the better. So, yes and no is my answer. Yes, you may be asked to carry files, but uh, chances are you're going to get access to those files also. You're going to be able to discuss with your seniors also and contribute. And there, I would say you have to be proactive as an intern or as a, you have to see how you can add value also, so that the party who's giving you work takes more interest in you and discusses with you and helps you grow. So it's a give and take.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for this insight. Like, I also probably was not knowing this thing, that this could be something like intern can gets a chance to do. Like Siddharth, I wanted to know, like you started working as an associate attorney at PepsiCo, and now you are like an M&A, M&A and private equity lawyer at your organization. So, like from an associate attorney to this M&A and private equity, what exactly the differences between the two? I think our watchers are also like interested in knowing that what is M&A and private equity is all about. How different this segment is from corporate law. Like, or maybe it's related to corporate law. What is all about? So maybe probably our like listeners are also interested in knowing that. So
Sure,
if you could please.
sure. I mean, Pepsi was an in-house role. I was a trainee. I was not a full-time employee, but yes, I had significant exposure while I was there. At that point in time, I being in Delhi, while I was a trainee, I also got. So, how did I get into M&A, right? So, initially, I stepped out of law in the sense that I got involved with that India Against Corruption movement for a while through some folks who were in touch with Mr. Kejriwal. I was able to work on the Jan Lokpal bill and a version of it. Got to do a few drafting sessions with him. Was asked whether I wanted to join the movement. It was not a party at that time, right? Um, and around the same time, I also got some. So the way I remember it is, I so I didn't take up this role at Pepsi full time. I didn't take up that offer to join the India Against Corruption movement full time. What I did take up was the offer to help this non-profit in fundraising. Now, how did I get there? So when I was in Delhi and I was working with this on this India corruption against corruption movement, I got a call one day from a partner at PwC. He was the chairman of this non-profit called Jagriti Yatra, which basically was doing, taking young people across India, introducing them to role model entrepreneurs, and inspiring them to start businesses and enterprises. Now, I had been on that yatra in my fourth year. Instead of doing an internship, I had gone on an all India yatra, which I was selected for, independent selection process and all of that, right? And it was such a grand experience for me. I learned a lot. There were business plans, and there were different types of people on that train, which we stayed on for over 18 days together. Over 500 youth traveled the country, and I had benefited immensely in my fourth year from that exposure. And then somewhere I had forgotten about it. But I suddenly got this call from this senior person, and he asked me to meet him. And so I went to meet him at FICCI, and he they needed to move on. So they when once I reached there, they had gone to the metro station. He asked me to meet at the metro station. I went to the metro station. They had to catch the metro and go to Gurgaon. And then somehow they just asked me to come to Gurgaon, and I said, "Okay, I'll come, but for what?" Right? They said, "No, we're doing a meeting." I said, "Who are you doing the meeting with?" He said, "It's a little confidential. You come, and then we'll see." So I said it was a weekend, and or I was free that day. Let's put it that way. And I, remember taking that leap of faith and just going to Gurgaon. And it turned out to be a meeting with at Google for this nonprofit, right, which was seeking funds. And the nonprofit had been funded by the Tata Group earlier, but they were looking for funding, from other sources as well. When it turned out to be Google, I went up and I found out, lo and behold, it is Mr. Rajan Anandan, who's a well-known investor, right, who this meeting was with. And that is how I got an opportunity to present my experience of the Jagriti Yatra in my fourth year through a poem, which I'd written. And I'll narrate it so it'll give you an idea of what that experience was. The poem goes like this: Metal on metal, this train chugs along across fields of paddy and palm trees. Mile after mile, we traverse this peninsula, deep in thought about emerging India. A kaleidoscope of ideas, a confluence of thoughts, each one excited about their society's future. And soon a sense of bonding ensues, a common vision of India unbound. तो ये कविता मैंने जब मैं ट्रेन पे था, एक पोएट्री सेशन चल रहा था, तो मैंने वहां पे there was a lot of quiet. We were given half an hour. We were taught how to write a poem, और मैंने ये लिख लिया. तो this ये कविता मैंने सुनाई मिस्टर राजन आनंदन को. I got an opportunity to uh, narrate it, and that's how I kind of felt that okay, and the team also felt that I could do sponsorships, I could do fundraising, that I was good at communication, at narration, and that I was genuinely keen and interested in supporting the non-profit Jagriti. So actually, from Pepsi and IAC, I suddenly got into this other movement of building India through enterprise. And I got connected to an amazing ecosystem of entrepreneurs during my tenure at Jagriti Yatra, where I essentially participated in raising funds for them. I was successful in the initial 3 months itself. I was given another traineeship before I was confirmed. So I raised money from Pepsi, I raised money from Bajaj Group. Uh, and then over the months, I visited so many companies and made so many pitches. And that allowed me to explore a very different side of myself. And I wasn't just doing fundraising, I was participating in the program also, because there was an entire program of entrepreneurship development. So I was participating in program development also, in the logistics of hiring a train, taking a train across India, selecting students, getting your t-shirts printed with various sponsor logos, and then also dealing with sponsors, right? Like Coca-Cola, when it finally came on with the Yatra, I was that account manager, right? So I got a lot of exposure in a very different field for about 2.5 years. Benefited immensely, felt satisfied that I was giving back to society, uh, benefited the Yatra, hopefully. And thereafter, I began to feel, as people came up to me and asked me whether I could also support them as a lawyer, I began to feel the need to come back into law and to actually start practice. And that is when I very seriously decided to enter legal practice by servicing startups. And for that, again, I found the right mentors. So I found the right mentor in Pepsi. I found the right mentor at Jagriti Yatra, um, right? And then I found the right mentors in my legal profession. And so I would emphasize again that if you're looking to start your career or get back into a career, you should find the right mentors who will train you. And you should remember, as a mentee, you will always give more. You will get, but you will always give more, and you should always give. So, with that principle in mind, I got back into, uh, you know, uh, legal documentation, and slowly built up my profile, my experiences. Uh, Worked with a larger firm. First, it was a smaller firm in Bombay, then a larger firm in Delhi, and now I continue in Delhi, working across with on acquisitions and venture capital investment deal documentation. And now it is something of that has organically become interesting for me, right? Because of these experiences I've had. So it wasn't like I just got into a job immediately. I may have been extremely unhappy actually if I just started off, at a firm right out of college. At that time, I was perhaps not ready for it. I perhaps needed different type of exposure for my personal growth, which I did to my heart's content. And then when I felt that I needed to service the entrepreneurial ecosystem in a more specific way, right? Then should it have been through an MBA? Because I went for an ISB interview also. Okay. But then and then I said, what then? I'll do 1 year of ISB and then I'll do marketing, sales, or, do I want to use what I have studied and gain those skills? And then how do I gain those skills? How do I meet the right people? How do I network? Sometimes in networking, you get lucky. You just meet that right person because you go to an event, you show up, you talk, you explain your background, you write a cover note about why you're interested in the profession. And sometimes those things work, right? Because people see a potential. And you need to then also, even if you're an intern or even if you're a law student, what you need to explain is what are the things that you have learned as a law student, what are the skills that you have developed through motivated, and what are the things that you have learned writing, for example, or through debating. Are you able to hear me? Okay. So what are the things that you have skills that you have developed, and how are you going to apply them to the profession? How are you going to apply them to adding value to the person you're working with, to the person who's paying you? So that transfer of skills from what you're doing as a student or what you've done in some other undergraduate course or some other experience you have had, how are you going to transfer that skill to this profession? You must always be able to display that. If not in an interview meeting, then definitely during a traineeship. If you do that successfully, then people will keep you and you will grow. And then they'll see those skills that you have. And that is how you establish a career over time. Sorry, you're on mute.
I'm really sorry. Yeah, so I was saying, like it was something really exciting, and it was really a great inspiring story. I personally felt it like, yeah, you mentioned that having a mentor is very important. Without a guiding angel, I think it could be it couldn't be possible for you, definitely. And even for us, and even for a student, it is not possible to start a career be it anything, like it's not about only law as a profession, but it could be anything. So having a mentor is very important, and I hope like everyone understand that how important is mentorship, and networking is really great to have someone around you. Okay, so I wanted to understand one more thing. Like when we say M&A, it's like merger and acquisition for those who are not knowing. So is there any particular course, or is there any particular subject one has to study to get into this merger and acquisition, or maybe like anyone can probably start that? Like if I say criminal lawyer has to study about criminal law, he or she has to choose a particular specialization during his or her schooling degree. So is there any particular specialization one has to choose to become a M&A and private equity lawyer to opt this career?
Yeah. So, I mean, primarily you're dealing with the Companies Act and compliances in and around or relating to the Companies Act. You're also dealing with documentation that has developed, commercial terms and commercial issues that have developed over time. So, A, the Companies Act, B, Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI Act, and related regulations, which would apply more to listed companies. And these two primarily, but also an understanding of how the commerce around it works, and why you have, of course, contract act, and representations and warranties and indemnities, and basic understanding of these terms is important for you to at least start a career in corporate law, other than getting exposure to the commercials norms around the documentation. Good drafting skills, good research skills. Um, but coming back to your point, the Companies Act, SEBI regulations, uh, Contracts Act, Indian Contract Act.
Yeah. Okay, that's like something really interesting is I was not aware that there's a Companies Act also, and in labor I was aware about that fact that there's a labor law, but I was not aware that we have a Companies Act also. Okay, so moving on to the next question, I would like you to, like, if you have some share tips to share with our students who are watching us, like what tips and tricks you want to give them, like if they are planning to pursue a career as a lawyer and in this particular field. So is there any tip you want to give them that how they should start?
No, for me, at least at that time, because I didn't have any grounding in law, nobody in my family, etc. Certainly, these coaching institutes that I went to helped me. develop a better understanding and prepared me for those examinations. So that's just a fact. If you're able to, like I did in my 11th standard, I was able to go see a live operation, open heart surgery. If you are able to see lawyers practice when you're in your 11th and 12th grade, go to court, maybe you know somebody at a law firm, go and see how they work, what they do. Maybe that also gives you some early insights, right? But you'll have to study and prepare for the CLAT or for the LSAT, depending on which test you give, or the Maharashtra CET now.
Yeah.
You will have to get through that and get into a university, go through that process, find a network of lawyers and alumni who who help you remain competitive. Uh, and I would say, if you are able to do internships, if you are able to work with lawyers, go to court, the sooner you do it, the better. So that's my initial like input or that I can
Nice.
give. See, because why you do something also depends on the life experiences you have.
Yeah.
So the more you interact with people, the more you uh, try new things, try mooting, try research, try writing articles, the more involved you are, better you are going to be able to assess for yourself what those skills are that you're good at, and how then you can apply it in the industry. It allows you to know yourself better, right? So I think what's important is you should know yourself better. You should
True.
read from that perspective, developing an interest in certain subjects. Maybe you have an interest in all subjects, or maybe you have an interest in some. And you should for example, if you're asked what is it about the Companies Act that you which parts of the Companies Act, which chapters interest you, what would you like to know more about, you should have some sense.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, it's not always easy when you're uh, 16 and 17 to answer that, but you can get there with some help and with a little bit of interest that you show. You start there, you start small, and then as you do more internships, you kind of become more adept at making those decisions. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, one has to be like particular about his or her interest. Because if you are not interested and if you are doing just for the
Correct.
sake of the others, but like okay, अच्छा ये कर रहे हैं तो मैं भी कर लेता हूँ, मेरा दोस्त ने किया है लॉ तो मैं भी कर लेता हूँ या मैं भी कर लेती हूँ, so that is not probably going to end up to the right career path. Future में फिर like after 10 years maybe, or maybe after 5 years, you will feel like, oh, this is something not for me. So
Correct.
exactly, accurately, you put it in a great way that having understanding your own interest and skills is very much required before pursuing any form of career. So it's very much important to like evaluate your interest, what you are interested in. I completely agree with it. Okay, like when you say that this is something, this is the advice you have given to student. So, is there any piece of advice you feel that if you when you were planning to study this law career, you could have received this as a law student? Is there any advice you feel that yes, this was the advice I was looking forward, but मेरे को नहीं मिली. अगर काश उस टाइम पे मिली होती तो शायद I would be something else, or maybe I could have done better.
See, I think your seniors in college or law school um, have a wealth of experience and information. If you're able to the more you interact with them, your peer group of course, but also your seniors, earlier you interact with them, the more you contribute to them, the faster you're going to learn. And those of us who did that in college or law school uh, just got onto that track earlier, because those same seniors go work, with a lawyer or with a corporate firm, and you keep in touch with them. And then when you have that opportunity, or you want that opportunity, you're able to tap into it. But those connections, forming those connections, is very important. I learned it a little later through my own self reflection of what I had not done or I wish I had done enough of. It wasn't that I didn't get the advice. I think by and large, I was quite privileged to be in a institution and in a city where I had exposure. But each of us does something, and each of us doesn't do enough of something. So the sooner you do it, the better. I did it as well. I benefited immensely from my seniors. I'm very, very grateful to them. But do it early. And for that, you sometimes have to be available to them, to help them, and get guidance from them. That's one major tip I would give to anybody in college. Don't just work with your peers, but take interest in what your seniors are doing and help them
That's a wonderful
for free.
that's a wonderful advice you have given. I
For
hope.
free, if
Yeah,
you can, at college, right? Level, at the
yeah.
college level. Yeah.
That's a wonderful advice. Thank you, Siddharth, for sharing your insights. So now we would be taking the question and answers we have received on the chat
Okay.
box.
Okay.
So we will be like taking those questions. So Shahjam says, I am planning to become a lawyer because my dad is also a lawyer. I don't know that it's a great decision or not.
Your dad is a lawyer. You're lucky in the sense that you can hang around his office, his chambers, his you spend time with him, spend time with others in his office, if not with him, because sometimes you want his hand, but you may not be uh, able to or wanting to work with him directly. If that is the case, you work with his colleagues, with his support, but don't lose out on the opportunity because you're lucky. So whatever it is that he is doing, whatever type of practitioner he is, try and understand his practice well. Doesn't matter if you're interested or not in that practice. Whatever it is, you understand that well because you have it in your family. You're very lucky. And give him some room to instruct you, to advise you. Just listen to him, I would say. The more you listen to your parents and sooner, the better. So tap
Yeah.
into what you already have in your family and then take a decision as to whether this profession or that vertical excites you. And if it doesn't, request him to help you in another, get exposure to another vertical. That's absolutely all right. I am presuming this person is in school.
Yeah, he's in school.
So he's a
So
student. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I have another question. It's from Sushant Raj. So he's asking, which specialization should I consider? What's the most in-demand specialization nowadays?
See, general corporate M&A is in demand because businesses, of course, growing. Commercial contracts are this innumerable contracts being signed. You have foreign work that is also coming in, uh, foreign investment that is coming in. You have some foreign clients who want to give work to Indian lawyers, even if we are not practitioners of English law or Singapore law. There is a certain level up to which one can draft contracts and negotiate, and of course then it gets vetted, so it's by that council. But the point is that general corporate commercial M&A is definitely going to grow. Now you have insolvency matters, so you have those practitioners who do NCLT practice, right? National Company Law Tribunal. Again, that's commercial litigation. Then there is arbitration. So you have arbitration, which is private domain dispute resolution. When two parties fight, they go to a private, maybe it's a judge or it's a advocate with 15 years experience, and they get their matter resolved there. So these areas of practice are also growing because commercial litigation and commercial practice is definitely in demand. Now, if you have interest in something else like trade law or uh, criminal law, family law, that is also fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another question, Siddharth. It says, how should I balance academic studies while gaining practical experience during my education in law school?
Well, it'll depend on the law school. There are some universities which give you a little more leeway to, work during the day. In which case, and you already know the type of questions that are going to come in the exam, the pattern of questions, etc. In many universities, like Pune University, which doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that you know what to expect, and therefore you're able to put in a few hours in the day. And I know students who did with lawyers at in court. Um, and then some people had a system where they would study only in the last month, and then there were others who would take out time every day regularly, and using notes, using notes from seniors, reading books, forming their own notes, spending time in that way regularly. They would prepare. So you have two different forms. I've seen both forms being very successful. I know someone who would literally write and she got ahead in the system. Likewise, there are others who did it very regularly and they also topped with distinction. So it depends what method you use. But like I said, if your university gives you the freedom after say 2 o'clock to step out into the city, then use that to at least 2 3 days in a week to work with someone. If you're in a law school where it's closed, in the sense that access to the city is not as easy, then, and if you have a trimester system and you have lots of unit tests, then it's possible that you'll just be very busy there as well. So it depends.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so we have another question that says, it's from Ashutosh, and he's asking, can anyone become an arbitrator without becoming a lawyer? Would you like to tell the future of corporate lawyer in the era of AI?
Yes, yes, you can become an arbitrator. You would be nominated as one because of your expertise and experience in that subject matter. If you're on a board of or a list, of an institution like Singapore International Arbitration Center, then they would have vetted you, right? And then only would you have featured on their list. If the parties know you and they think that you are good at the technicals of that matter. For example, it could be construction contract and a dispute in that matter. You have experience in the construction industry and you know the subject matter well, then you will be a favorite, for being selected as an arbitrator. Now, that is one question. The other one, if you could,
Yeah, the other one was, would you like to tell the future of corporate lawyer in the era of AI?
in the era of AI,
Yeah,
see, the future of corporate lawyers is that they will have to use these tools to maybe
yeah,
simplify the daily chores that they need to do. Because if they don't, then some other lawyer will use them, right?
yeah,
But in doing so, you have to keep in mind that, for example, I have found sometimes, interns uh, using chat GPT to give answers.
yeah,
And it has happened at least on some occasion, right? At one occasion. And very bright interns, right? And not looking to game the system, but just because of the short timeline that was given to them. And then I told them that, look, if you've used it for a base, right, fair enough, you got something there. But I can see that it is not matching fully with what I need. And at least put in some extra effort and you know give it to me in a format that looks like it's been worked on by a human being. So I think contracts will get automated to some degree. They are already automated, but you will always need to discuss things with the client. You will need to understand
Exactly.
what that party requires, and that
Yeah.
possibly only a human will be able to do. I might be wrong. Maybe there will be a chatbot talking to another chatbot. So one client's bot talks to another client's bot,
Yeah.
and they draft the contract together. Maybe a draft contract can certainly be formed like that. There are also smart contracts which execute on their own, which then don't require maybe a lawyer to tell the client that now you have to take this step and now you have to take that step, right? They
Yeah.
just execute on their own. So we have to be ready to work with these tools. But I don't see then, the need for lawyers going away that soon.
Yeah, definitely. So we have another question. It's from Aditya. What emerging trends should law students be aware of as they prepare for their careers?
Emerging trends.
Yeah, what are the emerging trends you would like to suggest for a student who is planning to pursue a career in a law?
See, I mean, there are some subjects that are always going to be trendy, right, and in need. For example, intellectual property law,
Yeah,
uh, copyrights, trademarks, patent law. Uh, as the number of businesses grow, the need for specialists in this domain is only going to increase. So I remember when I was in my second year, I had studied, I had taken these courses from WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization. One was a very basic course, which I cleared very easily. The other one was an advanced course, which was much more difficult, but it required 2 to 3 months of intense work, which I did alongside an internship, and I scored well. Now, when I was doing those courses, I knew that IP is going to be of great importance in the coming years. It was already, a significant practice area, but I had taken interest in that, right? So I went to London School of Economics, did a summer school there. I worked at a law firm, Sai Krishna Associates, as an intern, where I learned about the practice a little more. Um, I sat for a test in ILS for this Microsoft Intellectual Property Challenge, where only 3 people from college were allowed to submit their articles. For that, you had to do a test in college. So I gave that test. Then I was able to write an article. It didn't eventually win, and in the sense it didn't get sent to Microsoft, but it got published on Manupatra. Now, you the way I look at it is the trend really, it's not external, it's internal. You pick up a subject that you think you're interested in and you drive that subject. The trend will keep changing. One day something will be important, another day something else will be important, but by and
yeah,
large, yeah, you pick and choose a vertical that is 50% there. You know that there is a need for this kind of law. And then what you can do is, as you become a specialist, you may not want to continue and pursue that vertical, but you learn so much about the law from that
yeah.
vertical that you can transfer that knowledge somewhere else in another vertical. So I would say be less, of course, commercial law and what we've talked about, insolvency law and trade law. I mean, these are all on medical um, devices, an understanding of medical device, Drugs and Cosmetics Act and the other rules that have come out on medical devices. Um, all of those are relevant. You can pick them up and create a trend on your own, I would say.
Okay, that's great, Siddharth. That's all. I hope Aditya, you got your answer, and everyone else got the answer. So, if anyone also wants to know further about this career as a lawyer, please feel free to use that pin comment chat comment that click on the link on the chat box, and you can directly ask your questions from expert career counselors. It's free of cost, and definitely you should check that out. Thank you, Siddharth. For that's all I think for the today's session. It was
My
great to
pleasure.
have you, and it was really a great session. I couldn't be like it. It cleared out my thoughts as well. I was also having so many doubts. It all got clear. I hope everyone got answers to their questions. If you have many more questions or want to know more about the career as a lawyer or how can you get admission into a law colleges, just simply click on the link available in the chat box, and it will land you to the Ask Me Anything page of iDream Career, where you can get guidance and help from our top experts who will help you with your queries. So please go ahead and explore. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button below to stay updated and never miss any of our weekly career class and other insightful career options content. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, Siddharth, so much.
Thanks.
It was
Thank you.
really a valuable session. Have a fantastic day, and we look
Thank you.
forward to seeing everyone of you next week, Saturday at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you, Siddharth. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks.